Hey everyone, this is Brian from NintendoEverything.com, and I am joined by Dennis.
Hey, how you guys doing?
So I feel like I should almost start off with an apology here because it's been a really long time since we did one of these podcast kinds of things. So this is another Just a Chat, and I think the last time we actually did one of these was in November 2015.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
it's been a long time, but yeah, I've been really busy and doing a lot of different things. But if we can, I'm going to try and do more of these podcasts, and this is actually maybe a good time to start this up again because we have Dennis here for the first time, and we also have a lot of different stuff to talk about.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
No problem. So you have the Switch right now.
Yeah.
Nintendo was kind enough to actually send us the Switch and a
Mhm.
copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I still don't even know how we managed to get both of those, but fortunately we did get them.
Yeah.
And I thought we would just start off by talking about our impressions of the Switch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you obviously got it first, and then you sent it to me to review. But since you got it first, I want to hear like what were your, because I know before you sent it also, like we talked a little bit about it. But what were your like initial impressions when you first like unboxed it? Were you like super excited? Have you felt this feeling before with other consoles that you've opened, Nintendo or not? Or I mean, what was it like? Because we've known about this thing, especially as NX, for so long, and it wasn't until October of 2016 where we finally knew, finally had a name, the official name, Nintendo Switch. It's coming in March 2017. And then January, mid-January, we got a little more information on that, and then we got the actual release date and stuff like that. But I mean, this thing's been gestating for so long. How was it to actually finally have, the actual thing, it's this actual physical tangible thing like in your hands that we've heard about for so long that we only got to see months ago for the first time.
It was pretty great to say the least.
Hmm.
We've definitely been waiting a long time for this, like you said. I mean, when was it? Like March 2015 when
Yeah.
Iwata first announced it,
Yeah.
and it just the drip feed of waiting for information, all the rumors, and just it felt like this thing was going on and on forever. Everyone was wondering when this thing was going to be revealed, and the funny thing is that we waited all this time, but
Yeah.
then the time waiting for between the reveal and then the January event and then actual launch, it really wasn't even that long. So like the hype of actually waiting for Switch, knowing what it was and everything,
Hmm.
wasn't terribly long.
No, no, not at all. And I honestly think it was really smart because, usually with typically with game console releases, usually they announce it like earlier in the year and they're like, hey, it's coming out holiday season, and usually like, 10 months pass by and you're just like, oh man, like you either one, get tired of waiting for it, or two, the hype dies down because it's just like, I mean, as with everything, as time passes by, you got other things to look forward to, and like even though you're looking forward to this one thing that you've been waiting years for, it's like, it's just it I don't want to say it diminishes its value, but over time, you you start to get upset and you're just like, forget it,
Yeah.
but yeah, between October and all the way until, March, which will be, this upcoming Friday, really. And I remember back in October, I was like, man, we got to wait until March. But honestly, it came by a lot quicker than I think
Yeah.
a lot of people expected, And yeah, I mean, it's, and like you mentioned, since we've known this thing since 2015. I remember the DNA conference, right, where it was first name dropped,
Right.
and like Iwata just so casually says it and then moves on to the next subject. He's like, yeah, we're doing mobile games. We got NX coming out next year. We got this and we got that. It's like, whoa, 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 hold on. What is this NX thing you just name drop? Yeah, it's a new console, but yeah, but not gonna worry about that right now. Just gonna move on, talk about mobile games. Like, whoa, whoa, wait, wait, and like I think that took everyone by surprise, because everyone kind of went in thinking like, okay, we're gonna talk about their partnership, they're gonna talk about Mitomo, and I guess we didn't know really it was Mitomo back then, but what they plan to do on mobile devices and whatnot. And then yeah, these next 2 years following was just like rumors on rumors on rumors, right? And then we started seeing crazy mock-ups, right? There was that really good one though with like that they kind of look like Stewie's head kind of that controller.
Yeah. I'm just so glad it wasn't that.
Yeah, 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 that would have been a little ridiculous, but it kind of matched like some of the early patents that we were seeing, where it was like, there's going to be a screen on the controller, which is not a lie. It was that, it's a tablet, um, but the controllers, all the buttons are going to be on the screen also, so that way they kind of go around it. It looked really weird, and then, but they were very convincing, you know, 3D renders basically, right? And then like there were rumors that was just like, well, I think this was taken out of the Ubisoft studios over in Sweden, their development team that they have over in Sweden, and it looked like it because of like the reflections and stuff.
Yeah, that whole situation was crazy.
Yeah, it was just, it ended up becoming, I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, this thing turned basically into like a conspiracy, basically. It was like how people get hardcore into like aliens and like UFOs and stuff. That's how people got with NX. It's like any and all information they could gather, they made a big deal out of it, right? And they're just like, look, this is it. This is convincing. And it's like, obviously, and some things were right, some things were wrong, and especially compared to that controller to what we have now. I mean, obviously that was vastly different, so, but yeah, it's crazy to finally have the full thing out and in our hands. And honestly, I can't wait for March 3rd to come around, so everyone can finally have their own, because it really is just a stunning device. When you sent it to me and I opened up the box for the first time, I didn't realize how excited I was for the Switch until like I opened it up and my hands were actually like shaking.
Like, yeah, you told me that.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I've felt like that with the console. Maybe GameCube, because I remember when GameCube, I didn't get it when it came out, but I got it when the Platinum GameCube came out, and I picked that up along with Super Mario Sunshine. And I remember just being like, I don't know how old I was maybe like 10, 11 or whatever. And just being, ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, like, this is it. And then Melee came out later on, and like that ended up being my, one of my favorite games ever. But, anecdotes and stuff aside, I mean, I can't remember the last time, I was this excited for a system. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, was like, I don't know if it's because, this thing has been gestating for so long and we knew it as an X for so long, and then finally recently Switch. And then, the conference that happened, the presentation that they had mid-January, maybe that helped fuel the hype a little bit. But Nintendo's been doing some fantastic marketing with this thing. And I say that because, in the short few months, I mean, I haven't met one person yet that doesn't really know what the Switch is. I mean, this thing, it got a Super Bowl ad, so...
Right, that was a lot more than the Wii U ever got.
Yeah, and, even to this day, people don't know what the Wii U is. I can't tell you the amount of people that I've talked to that are just like, yeah, this works on the Wii, right? Like, no, no. But it's amazing how much, like, I feel like it's a slight thing that they could have fixed, was just like, instead of saying Wii U, you could have just called it Wii 2. No one looks at a PS4 and goes, oh, what is this? Is this an expansion to the PS3? No, no, it's the next one, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think I've ever met anybody who thought the Xbox 360 was the 360th Xbox, so it's a matter of marketing. And the Wii U, certainly the Switch in all ways has blown the Wii U out of the water. But anyways, to talk about the hardware, it's such a beautiful device. I'm surprised by how lightweight it was. When I took it out, I was like, this is it. This is the tablet, which is a great size. I think it wasn't too big, not too small. Definitely smaller than I thought, but it's a great size. And then the Joy-Cons are incredibly light, and they fit perfectly in my hands. And when you first turn it on, it's, you get that classic Switch sound, which I think at this point has become practically iconic. Yep. I like it so much, I've set it as my notification ringtone on my phone. But when you turn it on, you hear that, and then you go through the system settings, as everyone saw from the leaked videos and whatnot. And then you get that set up, but the UI is so incredibly clean. It feels grown up. It's very intuitive, compared to, the Wii U, which I didn't really have a problem with the UI and the OS that the Wii U had, but, everything was very bubbly, and, between the gamepad and the TV, and like what you saw on the TV relative to the gamepad, the gamepad typically would have all the, icons for the games, and then, the TV would have just a bunch of nothing, basically. It was just like a bunch of Mii's running around. It was like what people were basically playing, or the most active Miiverse communities going on at the moment. And like, it was fine, but this is just so I mean, clean. It's just it really is beautiful. And now, granted, because the system update isn't out yet, we can't really fully explore how much more we can do with it. Obviously, at the moment, as you said, Nintendo was nice enough to send us, a copy of Breath of the Wild with the Switch, and we've been playing that. And so, really, when you do open up the menu at the moment, it's just Breath of the Wild, and then it's a bunch of blank spaces after that. We can't go into the eShop at the moment, which is a bit of a shame because I do want to see what that looks like. I'm sure that's going to be incredibly clean. Also, I mean, if it's anything like the rest, of what the Switch shows, like the new section is clean, the settings are straightforward and clean, and they're all easy to access, and so I'm assuming the eShop's going to be the same way. But I would like to go in there and see, what's available. Though. I want to, download some apps. I know Netflix isn't going to be available on day one, but they're going to be adding that later on. But I want to download stuff like YouTube, and see how that runs and stuff like that. Maybe demos. I know there's going to be a demo for Snipper Clips, also apparently. So, but it really is just a beautiful, beautiful device. And like as I'm looking at it right now, talking, it's so discreet. It's in the corner. It's sitting next to my Wii U right now, and it's so compact, and the fact that it sits it just sits like straight up rather than flat. It just looks so nice. It's so everything. I can't praise the aesthetic of this thing enough. It really is just clean and beautiful. And the neon Joy-Cons, actually, I remember when they first showed them off at the presentation, I was like, I don't know, I don't like that. I think it's a little loud, it's a little too bright for me. But then when you actually see them in person, they're actually really, really nice. They're actually like, they don't burn your eyes, and as I thought they would, and they're really, really nice. And I think I heard somebody the other day that I read an article, or I read something somewhere where somebody said, even though the gray Joy-Cons, the gray system right now is outselling the neon system, they said that later down the line, especially with all the positive response they've been getting, with all the events and stuff that Nintendo's been doing, kind of in various parts of the world, that they definitely see it turning around, and more people are going to head towards the neon Switch instead. Give it probably until the end of the year, probably beginning of 2018, you're probably going to see a lot more neon than you are gray out there, which I wouldn't be surprised. And it makes sense to me, now that I see it in person, it really is a nice color. And I think the advantage also with having the two separate colors is that, for a game like Snipper Clips, right, or a game like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where, or games like that where you can give someone, one Joy-Con basically, it's easy to tell between the left and the right. It's easy to tell between player 1 and player 2 versus, the gray Joy-Cons, where you might not immediately notice that. You might have, you might hand a gray Joy-Con over to a friend at a party or something. Assuming that's what you do, because apparently all the advertisements really want you to take these things to parties, and basically, they kind of be like, oh, is this player 1 or player 2? Versus, and then you tell them real quick, and it's only a second, and it's not like an inconvenience or anything. But, the red and the blue, it's easy to distinguish left and right. And, especially for some people that, maybe not necessarily aren't good with video games, but maybe, just can't tell between the left and the right very well, it makes it a lot easier for them. And I do think it's great in that regard. And they're very, very pretty. And the neon red, which it still drives me crazy that apparently it's a red, because it looks completely orange to me. Like neon red makes orange to me.
It's my Vita.
But apparently the blue is a really nice shade of blue, and so is the orange, honestly. And if any of you have seen or own the Aqua Blue Vita that was available at GameStop, I don't know, like 2 Novembers ago, it's basically the same color. I want to say it's slightly lighter, but it's more or less the same color. And same thing with if any of you have the the salmon Vita that you can import either through PlayAsia or whatever. That's basically the same color as well. So look at the orange Vita, look at the blue Vita, and it's essentially the same color in person. But they are gorgeous. They are absolutely stunning. The whole system itself is just beautiful. And I've played every which way with Zelda as well. I've played in handheld mode, I've played on the console, and I've played with the stand, kickstand in the back. And honestly, every way that you play, regardless, is incredibly comfortable, and it looks good because the screen is just stunning. And I think that's the best part, especially coming from the 3DS. Where that resolution. I mean,
240p.
240p. Going back to YouTube circa 2006, and it's not the best resolution. But going from that, not that it's supposed to be replacing the 3DS or anything. It's a console first and foremost. But man, just you really get spoiled by it. And once again going back to Vita, where if any of you own a Vita out there, you know how pretty that screen is, man. And the Switch's screen is definitely a little better than that for sure. And for the size that it is, honestly, 720p is perfect for it. 1080p would have been a little unnecessary, really, because after a certain size, it's just like, what are you doing with such a high resolution, but yeah, it is just stunning. It is just a stunning piece of hardware to look at. I mean, just looking at it, you don't have to play it, just look at it. You could put that on like a mantle or like a museum or something. I don't know. It's so beautiful to look at. It's really one of the prettiest systems to come out in a long time. And I honestly think, one of my favorite devices ever is the Game Boy Advance SP, which it's so clean, small, and this reminds me of that, honestly, just as far as like design wise, where it's discreet, but also, you get that quality gaming in with, a quality library. And it really is just a beautiful, beautiful hardware. So I think, when it comes to pure aesthetic and just looking as clean and straightforward as possible, I think this is the best thing after the GBA SP,
Yeah, you were making a lot of comparisons to like the Wii U, and just, coming off of that, the gamepad wasn't bad, but when you compare the gamepad and then you look at the Switch, the handheld device on the Switch, the two aren't really even comparable, just because, the Switch just looks so much better.
Right, yeah. The gamepad, it's funny because like after I played the Switch, my immediate thought after I played it for like an hour or so, my immediate thought was like, I gotta go back to the Wii U. I gotta see what this is like. So I turned on the gamepad and I was just like, oh man, this is I'm sorry, like this is what you could have been, man. This is like, it really is just such a beautiful device, and the gamepad, not to mention the gamepad only lasts. I don't know. I guess your mileage may vary, I guess, but for me, most games I would play especially for games that require the gamepad and only the gamepad, where you weren't allowed to use a Pro Controller or any Wiimotes or anything like that. I don't know. I would maybe get an hour at most with the gamepad. I mean, the battery life is horrendous on the gamepad, and that wouldn't be a problem if all games supported the Pro Controller. The Pro Controller is fantastic on the Wii U. But but for the games that use only the gamepad and are limited to the gamepad, after an hour, you're basically forced to stop playing, and it's like, why? I don't want to stop playing, And but yeah, that was really the issue with Wii U for me versus the Switch, where I woke up the other day and I was too lazy to get out of bed. I woke up a little earlier than usual. I was too lazy to get out of bed, but I really wanted to play Zelda, so I grabbed Zelda. I put it in handheld mode, and I just laid in my bed, and I played for a good, like, 3 hours, which I think they said is going to be more or less the more or less the battery life for, Zelda in particular. They said it could go, up to 6-7 hours?
Yeah, I think it was like 2.5 to 6.5 hours.
Yeah. So... but for Zelda, I played a good amount of hours, and I even still had some battery left, but I just put it back in the dock just for just to be safe. I didn't get a message or anything after a few hours of gameplay that said, "Hey, your battery's getting low." I just kind of checked every once in a while, click the home button, then check the battery, and it was fine. Honestly, I was surprised by how long it lasted. And the Joy-Cons, forget it, man. The Joy-Cons last forever. I don't think they budge at all. I haven't charged these things in ages. Not since like you sent it, and like they're still at nearly 100%. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
I think the other thing is that the Joy-Con controllers are charged when you're using it in handheld mode, if there's enough battery in the handheld device.
Oh yeah.
So I think that helps also.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, and but even after that, like I think the last couple of days I've actually been playing in console mode, and the Joy Cons. Out of curiosity, every few hours I'll go and I'll check the battery on the Joy Cons and on the tablet if I'm in handheld mode, and uh, I mean the Joy Cons barely budge, honestly, and I'm rather impressed with it. And speaking of the Joy Cons, actually, I know I've been reading articles lately about people having sync issues with mainly the left one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as we're concerned, the unit you sent me is fine. I haven't had that issue at all, and I don't know. Maybe it might just be a vocal minority.
The whole
But
situation is pretty interesting because a lot of journalists have brought this up. So I
really,
was actually curious if you did experience anything because I didn't. I only played like what? Well, I guess it was just a few hours with the system before I
yeah,
ended up sending it to you. And
yeah,
I never encountered a problem once. So it's interesting that you also haven't found anything.
yeah, yeah. I haven't had an issue so far. And so far everything's been working fine. Everything's been working great. I just wish they need to hurry up and send out that system update because I really want to assess it properly. And I know they said, what was it like? They'll release it shortly before the launch, right? I think there was an article that Nintendo
Right.
Everything actually put up.
Yep.
I've never read. And it was what it's like. Did they give a date? I think they just said it was going to be before launch. They said, right? They didn't really give
Yeah,
a specific
I
date.
think they used basically just the term just before launch or something like that. We
Gotcha.
got information from them about the update, and that's what they said.
Yeah, yeah. So I would imagine at the latest probably morning on Thursday, but
Hopefully.
hopefully we get it sometime either Tuesday or Wednesday, or Monday. I mean, look, the earlier the better. But because I want to see this eShop, I think that's the big thing for me is I want to see the eShop. I want to see the games that are available. I want to see how it looks. I want to see if it's intuitive, just like the rest of the system is. Um, and how it compares to the Wii U eShop and the 3DS eShop. The one thing that I really do like, though, is that I'm so happy that since the eShop is still going to be the eShop rather than calling it something new, rather than how the Wii went from the Wii Shop over to the eShop when the Wii U came out and the 3DS as well.
Yep.
And then like didn't the DS have their own little weird store or
Yeah,
something?
the DSi shop.
Yeah, I never ordered anything I never bought anything from there, so I never used it. Uh, but thankfully now that everything's the eShop, thankfully, and I was worried this wouldn't happen, because Nintendo does things very weird sometimes, where thankfully any money that you do have currently in the eShop, will transfer over to the eShop on the Switch as well. So that's nice. Thank God for
Yep.
that. But yeah, I really want to see the eShop. I want to download some, extra apps, see how they run, and download some demos and stuff. Assuming there are going to be demos. I know there's going to be one for Snipper Clips, so I'm excited to try that. Just because, like, I'm not completely sold on it. It looks really cute, and it looks like it'd be an insane amount of fun. But I'm not entirely sold on it. I probably won't get it right away, just because Zelda's going to take everyone's time, not just my time, but it's going to take a lot of time from everyone's day. Zelda is, I mean, we were talking about this beforehand, where it's like we kind of got to watch what we have to say until the reviews go up. But it really is just a beautiful, 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 stunning game, Breath of the Wild, and it runs great, and the world is so massive. Like it is so. I don't want to say it's overwhelmingly massive, but it is absolutely huge. I mean, I've never the one game that I think I've seen that has a world this big is probably Witcher 3. And Nintendo made their version of Witcher 3 essentially, minus the obvious stuff.
It definitely
But
feels like you can get lost in that world very easily and just do a ton of different things and just spend hours doing nothing but doing a lot of things at the same time.
yeah, but you know what the great thing is like even though you get lost, it's a good kind of lost because there's
Right.
always something for you to find. There's always something for you to do, and there's always landmarks, which I was impressed with because even though you see a vast landscape, you still see these landmarks and you go, oh, I know where I am, and then you move forward and you take note of all of these landmarks, especially if you have like like a photographic memory and stuff like that. Oh my God, this is like it's so easy to navigate, and despite the massive world when you're doing your quests and whatnot, or trying to search for new dungeons, they are all pretty easy to find. I mean, they're you never feel lost. You never feel aggravated at all from being like, God, what do I do next? No, like you never feel that. Feel you always feel like you're on the right path. Even and that's the great thing about this game is previous Zeldas were like, okay, you need to do this dungeon, this dungeon, this dungeon. You need to get this weapon in order to do this dungeon. This tunic to do this dungeon. So far and so forth. And but this is like you can literally take it at your own pace. You can go in any direction you want, and it doesn't penalize you at all. The only time it does is, well, I probably can't talk about that, but yeah, just you really can take it at your own pace, and you feel a sense of adventure. You feel a sense of wonderment, and it really is just one of the most pretty and polished games I've ever played in my life. And um, in an odd sense, it's also relaxing because you take it at your own pace, and you also between the day and the night cycles and all the different things that change, and the weather effects, of course. It's just so it really is just a beautiful, beautiful game. And obviously we can't talk about too much, Zelda, but it really is. I honestly think. I mean, and I'm going to try very hard to not make my review like like 500 pages long, because like there's so much I want to talk about, and there's so much to say. But it really is, to put it, to sum Zelda up, I think a lot of people are going to be definitely rethinking what their favorite Zelda is, because this game really is that magical. It really is that, captivating and emotive and evocative, and it really is. And I'm really excited to see, because I'm a big Zelda fan, but I know people that are much bigger Zelda fans than me, that just live and breathe Zelda. Like that's what they live their life by, and something they grew up with. It's something that they cherish. It's an IP that will forever be with them, until the day that they pass. So I'm curious to see what they're gonna say, and because I think if someone like me, who, once again, I've always loved Zelda. I've been playing Zelda for a very long time, but for someone like me who's like, if I can really appreciate and love Zelda this much, I definitely think anyone who's even remotely a fan is really going to be blown away by this, and especially for those that are diehard fans as well, that like need to own and have everything Zelda, have the decal on their cars, have like all the Zelda figurines. And yeah, they're really going to be just blown away with this. I think Nintendo have created one of not one of the best Zeldas ever, but one of the best games ever made, period. And yeah, obviously without spoiling too much, I'm going to go more in depth on that, once the review comes out. But yeah, Zelda is just, it's magical. I mean, there's no really other word to put it. It really is just magical, and you get a sense of wonderment, and it's exciting. And this is such a great launch title to have for the Switch, because with the schedule that they're having this year, which is a great schedule, having the big releases kind of go month by month. Like March is going to be Zelda month, right? April is going to be Mario Kart month. May probably going to be ARMS month, right? June, I can see that being Splatoon month, right? So on and so forth. And then have a whole bunch of third parties in between. It's a great way to take it, and yeah, it's long story short, basically, Zelda's going to be truly fantastic. And I think Edge gave it a 10, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if we see quite a few honestly, quite a few 10s once all the once the review embargo lifts and stuff. So but yeah, it's fantastic, honestly. It's magical.
That's very good to hear. I only played maybe like 3 to 5 hours, or maybe a little bit more, but I only played a few hours of it, and it's just kind of amazing when you think about Skyward Sword and how initially you were given a lot of tutorials there and a lot of hand-holding, but obviously, as everyone knows, because Nintendo has shown like the first hours. Well, I guess they showed a few hours at E3 last year, and so
Mhm.
everyone knows that you just start out and you basically just start adventuring and do what you want to do. There's no hand holding. There's not really a lot of tutorials or
Yeah.
anyone guiding you. So
Yeah, it's very reminiscent, and you know, a lot of people have been making this comparison, and it makes sense. It's very reminiscent of the original Zelda. You know, it's reminiscent of that, and it, it's just, I mean, I wanted so much I want to say, you know, but uh, it really is just absolutely fantastic, and yeah, it's not too much hand holding. You jump in and you're good to go, and but because everything is so clean, and if you did do something wrong, it would tell you. You know, it'd be like, hey, you know, use this as a, you know, next time as like a tip or something. You know, when you're fighting a particular enemy, or if you're trying to, you know, dodge or whatever, it would tell you, hey, do this, do that instead, rather than being like, you know, right when you first wake up, you know, Zelda screaming Link, Link, you know, get out of bed, you know, you're late for work. You know, you get up, and then, you know, rather than it just having a bunch of screens pop up that's like, hey, you know, pull out your weapon this way, you know, and then, you know, go into your inventory this way, and, you know, so on and so forth. It just gets to the point of it. It's just like, hey, you know, you press start to do this, everything's going to be in there that you need. You'll figure it out from there. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to pick up, and yeah, it's just, it really is. And once again, going back to the scale of the game, it really is. It's also an easy like pick me up, also, which is crazy because like you can like I said, you can play the game in any way that you want. So if you want to go like farming for food, do that. You know, if you want to go looking for treasure, do that. If you want to go scale a mountain and, you know, look at the world, you know, look at all of Hyrule below you, and you know, you know, see how far you can kind of, you know, glide through the you know, the world, basically. You do that, you know, it doesn't stop you at all. There's no limits. There's no like, you know, place where it says you can't go. You can go literally anywhere you want. Now, whether you're going to be prepared for what's over there or not is a different story, depending on your armor and whatnot, you know. But it's not stopping you. If you want to go there, if you want to go straight to, you know, if you want to go straight to the castle, go there, you know.
did you try that?
No. No, just because I know I'm going to get destroyed
I did
immediately.
try it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and let's just say that there's a lot of defense force around there that makes it difficult to really do anything.
Right, right. Yeah, I figured as much. That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't go there right away. I was tempted. Believe me, it went through my mind. I was just like, I kind of want to go there just to see what happens. But I knew it was just gonna be just craziness. I knew there was probably gonna be a bunch of guardians, and there was probably gonna be a bunch of, you know, bokoblin and whatnot. Uh, and lightning strikes. I saw a video of that the other day. Really, you get struck by lightning. That's ridiculous. So I, you know, I don't, I just want to let me enjoy the game, and, you know, little by little, once I feel confident enough, then maybe I'll tackle it, as I get more armor and, you know, more better, I'm sorry, better, you know, weapons and whatnot. So, but yeah, the game doesn't restrict you at all. It really is just like, go do what you want, man. Go, you know, just, but here's a few points where you can do this and this, just in case you do want to continue the story or you want to find little things. Other than that, you know, do what you want, and you know, as you travel as well, you'll see a lot of you know, other people just, you know, other NPCs just kind of walking, and sometimes they'll give you side quests as well, you know, to kind of help you gain little things here and there. But yeah, I'm the thing I'm most impressed with is like, even though it's a vast scale, you know, the world is, you know, so huge, it's also easy to find your way around because of the landmarks, and you know, whether they be the towers or the, you know, the shrines. It really is easy, and because the game is also so beautiful, you know, there's a lot of things that you do remember, whether it's just, you know, oh, it could be as simple as, oh, I remember this patch of grass with all these flowers here. You know, it could literally be as simple as that, and then you know your way. And, you know, you find a shrine that happens to be in the middle of an island, you know, and you're just like, oh, okay, I know where I am. I'm near, you know, this particular village, I'm near this particular town, so on and so forth. It's just, there's so many landmarks that are easy to remember, and once again, the game is just so beautiful. It's it's no different from when you go traveling in real life. If you were to go to Tokyo, Japan or something, if you had never been to Tokyo, you would know that you were in Tokyo because of or like Shibuya or something, because of they have landmarks as well, and you would know, so stuff like Times Square in New York and stuff like that, landmarks like that, where it's like you see it and you know exactly where you are, you know what to expect, and yeah, it's just I really wish I could go more in depth, but we're gonna start going into spoiler territory, and
Here's a question for you, since you were kind of touching on it.
okay.
How dense are you finding the world? Because I think one complaint or one concern people
Mhm.
were having is that maybe there wouldn't be a ton of things to do. But when I was playing, I was actually just interested to see how there were characters kind of just milling about that you'd sometimes find. And I think there was one instance where I was going over a bridge and a bokoblin was like chasing one of these NPCs,
Yeah, yeah.
and you could just kill that NPC and save that person, and you kind of get like a little reward for it. So that was almost like a little mini side quest in itself.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a one thing. That's one thing that I was a little worried about as well. Is I remember seeing a bunch of demos. Honestly, like the trailers that Nintendo have been releasing for Zelda have been fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. Some of the best video game trailers I've ever seen
That
in my life.
that last one might be one of my favorite trailers ever.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. The music, with all the voice acting involved, which I want to touch on the voice acting in just a moment. But to answer your question though, I was also worried from all the demos that we've been seeing though. It's just like they're just walking around in a field of nothing. And that's what I was worried about. I was just like, why it looks so empty? And I don't know, but now I realize like playing it that I think they just didn't want to show too much. They didn't want to spoil too much. They kind of wanted you to figure stuff out for yourself. And that's why the demos just look so empty. Because honestly, like as excited as I am for Zelda, looking at all the demos and stuff, I was just like, man, this is just, I'm just running around in a field. I mean, if I'm gonna run around in a field of flowers, I'll just play Flower. I have that game on PS3. I'll play that, um, but when you actually get the full game and when you actually jump into it, I mean, it really is one of the most vibrant, most, animated worlds you'll ever jump into. I mean, there's something happening in every corner. Like you said, with the bokoblin chasing an NPC, I saw that as well. I encountered that as well, heading over to a village, and yeah, and then with there's other travelers. It's not just you running around Hyrule. Like there are other travelers as well, and you run into them, you can talk to them. Some of them are merchants, so they'll sell you stuff, or you can sell them stuff. And other stuff just want to talk to you. They'll give you a piece of history about Hyrule. Others will give you side quests and stuff like that. But the world is very much alive. No matter what corner you look at, no matter what direction you go into, the world is very much alive. And yeah, it really is stunning. It really is. And I think one of the reasons why it feels so alive, honestly, is honestly the voice acting. The cutscenes, they, I think a lot of people have been kind of asking for voice acting for a while. Now Link obviously doesn't have a voice still, but that's fine. I guess his grunts will do.
I think that was the right way to go about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining, but everyone else definitely needed some voices for sure. But everyone's voice fits perfectly, and I saw a lot of people complaining also, because I know, Nintendo Everything put up a video where, switching between, since you can switch between English and Japanese via the system settings, I saw a lot of comments of people saying like, well, if you can do that, why can't we do English subtitles with the Japanese voices? Honestly, the English voices are perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I saw a lot of comments as well when the trailer released a few weeks back. That incredible trailer where people were like, "Oh, well," and everyone was kind of contrasting and comparing all the different voices from the French one to the German one, the Japanese and the English, and so on and so forth. Everyone was like, "Oh, well, the Japanese is so much better. Zelda's crying in English. Doesn't sound as good." But it's like, when you're when you actually get to play the game, the English voice acting is fine. Everyone fits, and it's really, really good. And obviously for a trailer, they can't show you too much. I mean, this is their Star Wars, basically. They want to be as They want to keep it as mysterious as possible, and so Zelda's voice is fine. Everyone's voice is fine. Zora's voice, they're all fine. And um, somebody made a good a good retort to those comments where somebody said, what was it? It was like, when Zelda, especially, as active as she is, as big of a role that she has in this game, um, she's not the damsel in distress here. She very much holds her own. She's a warrior, much like Link. And that one particular part in the trailer where you do see her cry, and then the English voice acting that goes along with it. Somebody made a good point where it's like, look, when you're that tired, when you've spent all your energy, trying to save your kingdom, basically, and and you're literally like you're running on fumes. You don't, even if you get sad or start crying, you don't even have the strength to do that, So the fact that it was a very light cry, not to mention like Zelda, especially in this game, she's meant to be this symbol of hope. She's meant to be this, this powerful figure where people, look up to her, and you exude strength. You are, the symbol of Hyrule. You are what gives, Hyrule hope, basically, as a whole. So, she also needs to be very stoic when she needs to, and she needs to, fight for her people, basically. So, of course, when she's, crying, it's, it would make sense that she wouldn't start, crying profusely and just start wailing and, waving her arms, going, throwing a fit and whatnot, like a 5-year-old child would or something, throwing a tantrum. So, I think, and I agree with the comment where, they basically said, hey, her voice acting is perfectly fine. If anything, it's extremely realistic. So, and that's not to, undermine the rest of the voice acting that the different languages have. I loved seeing all the other trailers and all the different voice acting they had. I think they were all fantastic, honestly. But the people kind of screaming for English subtitles and the Japanese for Japanese voices, I don't know. It's not necessary. I mean, like I said, you'll get the game, and I don't get me wrong, I am a person that, especially when watching anime or playing other particular games, Japanese games, I when I have the option, I do put it on Japanese voices with English subtitles, but just to kind of keep the authenticity there. But for something like Zelda, I mean, the English voice acting is fine. It's it's perfect. So you're not gonna, when people get their hands on it, they're very much gonna be looking. They'll appreciate it. They'll appreciate it. It's just one of those things where at the moment, it's a trailer. They don't know too much about it, so they're just kind of going off what they see. But once you get your hands on it, you'll very much appreciate the voice acting, and not just for the fully voiced cutscenes, but all the stuff that goes around all over the world and stuff like that. So, Nintendo knows what they're doing. When, especially when it comes to Zelda, they're not gonna, kind of, basically, not put the necessary work into it. So, if they felt it wasn't good, they wouldn't have done it. So, but yeah, I mean, that's, the voice acting's fine.
Yeah, I only heard a couple of characters, but from what I could see, it was definitely fine.
Mm-hmm.
There've been a lot of worse games out there with poor voice acting. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a lot of worse voice acting for sure. But yeah, I mean, Zelda, long story short, I mean, it's unfortunate because we really can't talk about much. But it really is just, it's one of the most beautiful games you'll ever play, honestly. Whether you're going to tackle it like an action adventure, whether you're going to tackle it like an RPG, whether you're going to tackle it as a farming simulator, it's either way you're gonna enjoy it. It can be relaxing when you want it to be. It can be aggressive when you want it to be. It can be adventurous when you want it to be. It can be, it can be very Dark Souls-ish if you want it to be. Especially if you want to go straight to Ganon's castle. So, Yeah, it is just just a it really is a work of art, honestly. It really is. It really is. And yeah, I'm gonna be doing my best to, because it is such a massive game, I'm doing my best to, grind through the game some more and try to give the best review I can possibly give once the embargo's left. So, but I honestly, seeing Edge give it a 10 out of 10, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the other gaming sites follow suit. Honestly, this is a game that is worthy I know we don't do scores, but for those that do do the scores as well, it's definitely worthy of a perfect score for sure. If that's your system. So I see just about every site following suit, and I think if you were excited from it for the trailers that you've seen and all the demos that we've seen so far, the real game is going to blow you away even more. If you have high expectations, I can promise you this will exceed those expectations. And it goes back to what I said at the very beginning, where this game is going to have a lot of people reconsidering what their favorite Zelda is. A lot of people go straight to either Ocarina of Time, or A Link to the Past, or Majora's Mask, But this, I mean, my personal favorite was, Wind Waker, but this is really, really making me rethink that. People's top 3 Zeldas are going to be changing. Hell, people top 5 favorite games of all time probably is going to be changing after this comes out.
That is very high praise.
It's very, very high praise, I know, but I'm honestly confident in saying that. I'm really confident in saying that. I honestly think a lot of people are going to feel the same way, especially if you're a diehard fan. But even if you're just remotely a fan of Zelda, like you're just like, yeah, I like Zelda. I've dabbled in a few here and there. This is really, I mean, I'm serious. Like, I would put money down on this. This is gonna it's gonna blow you away. It's gonna blow you away. It really is just a fantastic, fantastic work of art, and honestly makes the delays worth it. I know we were supposed to see it years ago. This became Nintendo's Final Fantasy or Last Guardian, where it just kind of kept being delayed and delayed and delayed, and like after a while, I was just like, all right, well, it's out when it's out, so I'll wait for it. But man, was the wait worth it? I mean, it really just it is that sweet joy you'll feel. March 3rd, once Switch comes out and Zelda comes out, that you're gonna get your hands on it, and it's gonna take up literally all your time. People are gonna be missing work for this, I promise you. People are gonna be missing work. People are gonna be skipping school, and rightfully so. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, if it was up to me, I'd be like, hey, look, March 3rd, everyone gets a holiday. This is a day off. Not even just March 3rd. Get that entire weekend off. Get that entire weekend off. March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. No school, no work. It's a national holiday. Just go and enjoy Switch.
Well,
and
thankfully,
Zelda.
people aren't going to have to wait much longer because it does come out on Friday, and your review is coming up on Thursday. Actually,
Yes,
I think it's really early in the morning, if I'm remembering right. But
yeah.
But yeah, and we have Switch impressions up on the site. I actually posted a rare article because I convinced myself that I had to carve out time to share my impressions on the system, but now we have you on here, and you gave your impressions of the Switch as well, and you shared some impressions of Zelda with us, so glad we were able to do that.
Yes, sir.
And do you have any final thoughts about just like the Switch in general, or Zelda that you want to share?
The Switch is a magnificent device, honestly, and I honestly think that I made a prediction not last year, earlier, and sometime last year, where I was like, I think, because the Wii U worldwide only sold 13 million units, not much. So I honestly think Switch this time next year, in 2018, we're going to be looking at about 8 to 10 million units sold. If not the entire life cycle of the Wii U, in 1 year. I honestly think, just because of all the marketing that Nintendo's been doing, some great marketing. I mean, they even got a Super Bowl ad. You can't really get any bigger than that, really. You got a Super Bowl ad. There's like 70 million people watching the Super Bowl. A 30-second ad is going to make at least 1 million of those people, at least, go, oh my God, what is that? Oh, that looks cool. I need that. And the tablet feature, the fact that, if play it at home if you want. If you got to go to somebody's house, take it in handheld mode. But honestly, the entire thing is so small.
Yeah, the dock, it actually surprised me how small the dock is too, by the way.
Yeah, I was surprised when I took it out. I was like, this is it? This is it? It's the size of a 3DS XL, It literally is the same width as a 3DS XL. And I put my Vita next to it too. The same width. Like it's so tiny that it's like, even if you were going over to a friend's house or to a party or whatever, just bring the dock, and the thing is so lightweight also. I mean, the thing, it feels like a feather in your hands, So it's like that you can just bring with you and then easily plug it into the TV if you did want to play it on the TV, and you're good to go. But it's going to be, it's for lack of a better word, it's going to be a game changer, and no pun intended either. It's going to be a game changer. I do think that. And I think Nintendo learned from their mistakes with the Wii U. And they're gonna go. They're definitely going balls to the wall with the Switch, and I'm so happy that they are, because this device has an amazing amount of potential. And I'm just looking at it at its base value. Really, the eShop isn't even up yet. We haven't even gotten a few more updates as well. So this thing has some serious potential, and it's going to blow a lot of people out of the water, I think. And for $300, I'm honestly surprised with the amount of technology that's put into this thing, especially the Joy-Cons. Especially like for like 1-2 Switch, for example, they got a game in there that has where you have to guess how many balls are rolling around the Joy-Con. Like, the fact that it's that advanced with the HD Rumble feature, and the amount of stuff that's packed into those Joy-Cons, man, I'm honestly surprised it's not more. So people complaining that it is $300 instead of like $250 or whatever, trust me, it's well worth the $300. If anything, you're gonna get it and you're gonna be like, I'm surprised this didn't cost more. I'm surprised this wasn't $400, honestly, just because what you're getting with it is really truly a beautiful device, whether you're playing on your TV or on your hands or on the go. So. And the Joy-Con, the grip that it comes with is great, but man, playing Zelda, my favorite way to play Zelda is just holding the Joy-Con, one in each hand, and just kind of laying down like you would, like a Wiimote or a nunchuck.
Yep, that's how I was playing it.
Yeah, it's so comfortable. Like, I would have my left hand like over my head, my right hand like extended, and like I could play and it was so comfortable. Like, I could be in like these weird positions. You could be doing yoga and play Zelda at the same time and not have an issue. It's fantastic. You can be playing, you'd be doing yoga, you could be, aerobics, whatever you do, any type of stretching, you could do that. You could stretch and play Zelda at the same time and not have to worry about a wire like you would with the Wiimote and the nunchuck. So it really is, it's one of, like, you don't need the grip. It's unnecessary. They should just take that out of the packaging. No,
yeah,
we don't need it.
I didn't really feel like I needed to use it. I just liked holding them apart, and if I wasn't doing it that way, I'd be playing in handheld mode, and if I wasn't doing that, I'd be playing with the Pro Controller. So
yeah,
to me, I don't know. I don't really see myself using it that much.
Yeah. I don't see the grip getting much use, honestly. But for those that do use the grip, though, it is incredibly comfortable. Though it's surprisingly comfortable. You look at it and you go, I think a lot of people's initial thoughts was just like, this thing is just a square. How's that gonna feel comfortable in your hands? Trust me, it'll feel comfortable. It feels really good. So yeah, grip or no grip, handheld mode or TV, you're going to have a great time playing, and it's going to be comfortable either way. The screen on the tablet is gorgeous, and Zelda is gorgeous as well, both in handheld mode and on the TV. It really is. The art direction they took with it is beautiful, and honestly, it kind of reminds me of Ni no Kuni a little bit. Just because that art direction, I get a very Studio Ghibli vibe from it. And it reminds me of Ni no Kuni a little bit, just because of the little bit of cell shading that goes on, and the mix between everything is just so beautifully animated. And yeah, I just, to everyone that's listening, March 3rd, is going to be a big day for Nintendo fans, and especially if you were let down by the Wii U. Believe me when I say Nintendo learned, and not only do they have a steady supply of games coming out, but from a hardware perspective, the Switch is just such a beautiful thing, and is really going to change uh, the landscape of gaming for the next few years, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be very interesting to see what the Switch looks like in about a year from now, just because I feel like some concerns people have are about what it doesn't do rather than what it does do, because, it doesn't have Netflix out of the gate, and
Yeah.
just, people kind of think that it may be a little too minimalistic just because, there aren't sounds and there aren't software apps built in, but in terms of what it can do, I think it does what Nintendo promised it would do very well. Just the transition from putting Switch into the dock and then taking it out, everything just, it all works very well, I feel.
Yeah, it's incredibly seamless and it's incredibly fast. That's one of the first things I did, is like the moment I hooked it up via HDMI, put it on the TV, I got the image. Within 2 seconds, I pulled it out of that. I just wanted to see how fast it was. And it is fast. I mean, it is instant. It is insane. Like, there's no delay at all. It's insane. And but going back to what you were saying, people being a little upset that there's maybe there's not going to be Netflix on launch day and stuff like that. People, that's mainly a convenience factor though, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, these are gaming devices. They're meant to be played on. They're meant to be for playing games. I remember when the PS4 and Xbox One came out, the Xbox and the PS4, they were just, you paid $500 for Netflix, because people weren't really playing anything. So it's like, because there wasn't really anything on launch. So it's like, the Xbox was like a Netflix box for a lot of people, and then there was the Netflix station that was like, when it released, and it's like, I don't know, for me, if I'm going to be spending that much money on a gaming system, I need my games. And Zelda gives enough incentive, and from the quality of this game as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful game and on a beautiful piece of hardware. And, like I said, Netflix and YouTube, yeah, it'd be nice to have them, but those are mainly convenience, and especially if you're going to be playing on the go. If you're playing on like a train or something, chances are you're not going to have Wi-Fi. You're not going to use those anyways. What you can do, however, Wi-Fi or not, is play games, because that's what it does. It's a gaming machine. So just stick with the games for now. It'll be fine. You'll live without YouTube. I'm sure you have a phone right next to you when you're playing anyways. Try, have a phone if you have a kickstand on that, or if you have dual monitors, you can do that as well. You'll live. It's okay. We don't need it right out of the gate. It'll come in the future, and then Twitch will come by as well and all that stuff. So,
and virtual console.
and virtual console, that's right. Yeah, there's not going to be virtual console on launch, unfortunately. But once again, that's okay, because I know I don't want to be distracted by Super Mario World, because God knows I would be, because I love Super Mario World and the original Super Mario Brothers, and I've downloaded that on every system I can download that on. So, and God knows if they put Super Mario 64 on there, done deal. Zelda would have to wait, because Super Mario 64, even to this day, like my favorite game of all time. I can't not play that game when I have it. So, I love Super Mario 64. So, and I'm super excited for Super Mario Odyssey, but we can save that for another time.
Yeah.
So,
and not to make excuses, but not having the virtual console does allow indies to shine a little bit, because we know that Shovel Knight's going to be there.
Yep.
Fast Remix is going to be there.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
And actually, Nintendo's hosting a indie showcase kind of thing on Tuesday. So
yep.
We may find out about other launch games and what's coming in the future. So
yep, very, very excited for that. I love indie games, honestly. I think that's where a lot of the creativity is at the moment, especially in the last couple of years. So I'm super excited to see what they bring over, what they have to show. Fast Remix is going to be big, of course, and then of course Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight's become just world-renowned hit at this point, and I'm really excited for I Am Setsuna. I know you and I talked about this briefly before, where it's like, I Am Setsuna was available on PS4 and PS Vita in Japan. However, when it got localized, it was PS4 only. Now, I think that upset us, right? Because we wanted to play a game like that would be perfect on a handheld, right? We would have loved to play that on our Vita. Now we can play it on a handheld. So it's
I
great.
purposely held off because I just knew I have all these games and I have a huge backlog. I was just saying, it's pointless to buy it on PS4 right now. And then luckily, there was a Switch version that was announced. So I'll definitely be getting that at some point.
I'm very, very excited for that, because now I can finally play that in handheld mode like I wanted. And if I wanted to see it on the big screen, I have that option, and that's the beauty of Switch.
Yep.
You want to play it on handheld mode? Great, because there's some games that are console only. Like for me, side scrollers should always be. They're perfect for handhelds. So when I see a side scroller that's like, console only, I'm like, and with the PS4 you can do remote play and stuff like that, but to be able to play it natively, not have to worry about a connection and like getting cut off after a distance and whatnot, with the Switch, it's amazing. You have that option. It's just like, oh, this game would be perfect for handheld. Well, play in handheld mode, no one's stopping you. That's the beauty of Switch. And then, hey, actually, I want to see how pretty this game would look actually on a big screen. Pop it in the dock, boom, you're good to go. I love having that option, and the fact that this is a hybrid. I mean, as someone who is a big handheld fan, I mean, really is just a dream come true.
Yeah, I basically said as much as in the Switch hardware preview I put up. This is kind of what I always wanted out of a Nintendo system.
Exactly. Yeah, this is goals, man. This is what it is. We're here. We're here.
Yep.
This is a time to be alive, man. This is a great time to be a gamer. Whether you're, whichever side you swear your loyalty to, whether it be PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, or whatever else, or if you're a PC master race, then you definitely want a Switch, just because Switch provides something new. Switch provides just a type of gaming we've never seen before, and it's so comfortable, it's so beautiful, and to have that, even if it's not your main system, it's going to be an incredible complementary system to your PC, to your whatever you prefer to play on. So it really is just going to be, it's going to blow a lot of people out of the water, and I'm entirely convinced of that. And I mean, long story short, it's going to be fantastic, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Wii situation. It's not going to sell as much as the Wii. Wii was, an anomaly. And Wii was, oh my god, it sold so much. But as far as like being able to find it in the store, it's going to be a little hard to find, much like the Wii was in that regard. So
time will tell.
Time will tell. I mean, look, if it does as well as the Wii, great. I want it to be as successful as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Something like this, I see a lot of potential in, even the little bit that I've played with it, both messing around with the hardware and then playing, Zelda, of course, and just, what the Joy-Cons offer and whatnot. I mean, it is such an incredible device. You really feel like you're part of the future, man. Like, you hold it, you play it, and you're like, man, it's only 2017. Something like this I would expect to come, years from now. Not that we couldn't have pulled it off now, but the fact that we did it now and it's only $300, versus something like, VR headsets, where that's, even though they're getting cheaper to make, but they're still relatively expensive. They're not exactly, consumer friendly. So, the most consumer friendly one right now is PSVR, which, is $400 versus, something like HTC Vive or Oculus, where you're looking upwards of $1,000, for those things. So the fact that this is only $300 with as much that's packed into it, it's a steal, honestly. It really is a steal. Like, I can promise you, no one's ever played anything like this. No one's ever experienced anything like this, and it's truly a thing of beauty. From a hardware perspective, just looking at it. I mean, I'm just looking at it. Just looking at it is just pretty. It's just pretty. Like, it's just, it's just like you get it and you want to caress it. Not the screen, because then you're gonna get a bunch of oil on it and whatnot. So, but it's like, it's just so nice. It's so pretty. It's just so pretty. Like, it's, and the packaging was surprisingly straightforward and clean as well. I mean, there's a bunch of unboxings now going out, so I'm sure people see, but like, when you actually get one in your hands, you don't realize how small the actual box is. Like, when I took the box out and I was like, whoa, this is it. And then, like, it was so nice, you're greeted immediately to the Switch tablet, to the Joy-Con. And then under that, you get all the necessary things to get you up and running, like the dock and the HDMI cable and the AC adapter. And then you're good to go. It's a straightforward unboxing, and you're up and running within minutes, of taking it out of the box, if not seconds. So,
yeah. And thankfully, people aren't going to have to wait much longer to try it out themselves.
Exactly.
So yeah, there are a lot of Switch posts on the site as of now. I put up our impressions of the system. We have some videos up. We put up an unboxing video, a couple of clips of Zelda. So there's a lot to check out, and then your review's coming up on Thursday.
Yep.
All right, so look for that very soon, and enjoy your Switches, everyone.
Have a good one.
See ya.